Alright, we are recording for chapter 12 of Attack of the Clones, which is a longer chapter, and yeah, I got more notes. Because, some of these people are idiots. Mainly Padme. Anyhow. Uh, doo-doo-doo. Okay. Just reviewing where, because there's like two main moments, two main settings for the chapter. The first is they're on the cargo ship in steerage, and second is when they're on Naboo. More of the complaining stuff that I got is when they're at Naboo. Yeah, so in steerage, it actually mentions that she kind of likes it. I mean, it's far below any standard that she's used to traveling in, but it's basically she gets to be just Padme there. She is free of her normal responsibilities as senator, as any kind of politician. She's just a person there, and she rather likes that. Um, it does also very much suggest that she is starting to fall in love with Anakin here, which it's possible it's because of the great amount of time they're spending together, and also I think because she's free of her responsibilities, so she's able to think more just about herself, which is also a little interesting because technically, if it were some other man of appropriate age near her, I could also see her having feelings develop towards them. Just the whole she is so used to not indulging in those emotions, that now that she feels she can, I could believe that she would start connecting with whoever was there, especially somebody who is so interested and attracted to her. Maybe not to the full level Anakin is, but near that it's still possible. I mean, we know where their relationship is going, but it still is one of those. She might her progress to getting there is interesting to track. So yeah. Um, she does also comment about how, just mentally, she comments how there would be complications to such a relationship. One is just the Jedi rules. Um, yeah. The other is, I'll get to the head shaking in a little bit. The other is just the idea of a senator being so involved with the Jedi, especially because if the Republic army is formed, then that would be essentially serving in the same role, at least a similar role, as the Jedi for being peacekeepers. So how does that play into things? Yeah, the head shaking is, I want to say that in Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, which is a video game, the premise there is the child in that who becomes Vader's apprentice, is actually the child of two Jedi, and it's like I already think that the rule for the Jedi here is stupid. How they the way I can think to put it is like the whole they're not allowed to marry. It sounds kind of similar to like a Catholic priest. And it's like, yeah, but a priest enters into those orders as an adult, like has full knowledge and understanding of what's going on there. The Jedi are brought in before they reach a year old, typically. It's a very dumb rule. I mean, it's like I'm certain that there have been people deciding to make the exception. So, like having I think they use the name Starkiller, at least the code name for the character in The Force Unleashed. I almost want to say his actual name was Aiden. I don't remember. It's been too long since I played the games. Um, but in any case, that's probably happened. Hang on, just realized hang on. I wanted aim down more, so I feel more of the frame when I'm standing up. And it's also, I mean, you can see that I actually have it trimmed down a little bit, so I'm not so huge. You can see more of the background. Anyway, but yeah, it's a contrived rule that it wouldn't be that unreasonable, I think, for Anakin just be like, you know what, I'm out. I give it up. Want to be with her. And the council being like, okay, that's fine. And in fact, in the next chapter, when I was looking to see forward, I did see that apparently there is some talk about the 20, like Count Dooku, who have left the Order. It's like, why couldn't Anakin, but then just maintain a relationship so that his training can continue, at least so he is in control of his powers always. Not necessarily developing them, but controlling them. So I mean, it is one of those things where it's like, maybe we need to rethink these rules kind of thing. All right, moving on from that. So Anakin has his nightmare again about his mother, and Padme sees this, and they talk a little bit about that. One thing occurred to me during this. Padme should have money. In theory, why couldn't she? Because remember, they don't know the situation with Shmi at all. They don't know that she's already been freed, and they don't know that she's been taken by the Tuscans. They don't know any of that. Why couldn't she be like, because, I mean, they're even talking about how it would be nice if she could live on somewhere like Naboo or on Coruscant, somewhere safer than on Tatooine. Why couldn't she offer to buy Shmi's freedom and then have her live at Naboo, potentially? I mean, I get the whole, she doesn't want to cultivate a romantic relationship with Anakin. A friendship, that's fine, but not a romantic relationship. I get that. But still is I'm now in a position I can do this kind of thing. And you are in pain from this. You know what? Why don't I help? Because, I mean, in theory, it is just need to buy her. It's kind of easy. And then, or even just we buy her and she goes wherever she wants. If she wants to go to Coruscant, the Jedi might not like that because you having easy access to her then. But, okay, if that's a problem, she can come to Naboo. It doesn't seem that unreasonable a thought here. Unless it is, she doesn't really have any money for it. But it's still... I mean, you could even argue it as hey, remember 10 years ago, he kind of saved our asses? Why don't we pay him back with this? Anyhow. We then get some history on... and just finishing off that point. It would calm Anakin down, you'd think. The plan there, at least... until they learn what's actually going on with Shmi. Anyhow, so then we get Padme's history, which is still stupid. I mean, it does kind of... no, it doesn't. I'm sorry, I stand by my criticisms of that in The Phantom Menace. But anyway, let me run through it here. So according to Padme, her history was she wanted to join the refugee relief movement. We don't know what that is, let me be clear. Because also, what are these refugees from? No knowledge of that. She studied history at the time and found that politicians could achieve much good. So then she decided, all right, I'll enter into politics. So she joined the apprentice legislators on Naboo at age 8. She then became a senatorial advisor, and from that was then elected queen. It's like... 80-year-olds are stupid. Now, I should correct that by saying I've known plenty of 80-year-olds that weren't stupid. But what I mean is, for an 80-year-old, they're smart 80-year-olds. But for a 16-year-old, an 8-year-old is stupid. For a 21-year-old, an 8-year-old is stupid. Why the hell is an 8-year-old allowed in something like that? That is described as basically if you join this... What was it again? Apprentice legislatures. That's basically you saying, I'm going to be a politician. It's like, okay, why the hell are they letting anyone in at that age? I mean, it's also 18. Even in The Phantom Menace, she's described as just out of girlhood. And with, then when Newt Gunray sees her, because he's the one that makes that comment, when he sees her out of makeup, says she might even be younger. 80-year-olds is before puberty. Puberty does a lot of stuff to your brain. Okay? It does. In fact, it does... Some of the rewiring to your brain that happens doesn't even end until like you're 25 or so. So it goes well past the physiological changes. The neurological changes do. And it's like, oh yeah, we'll take an 8-year-old. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you? These are absolutely people at that age. They have no ability to make such decisions. And you know there's going to be changes. It's still stupid. And as I was also saying in The Phantom Menace, the only way it makes sense for somebody of that age to ascend to the level of queen for a planet has got to be she was a princess. Has got to be she was raised for this. All right? It's the only way she could have all the proper training. And remember, it wasn't just political training. She also had military training, because she knew how to use a blaster, and she was described as moving like a seasoned warrior. Right? She had to have received massive amounts of training for that. There is no way that's coming from a thing that the Naboo just joined because I want to be a politician. There's no way that's happening. Okay? No. She had to have been raised. I have a feeling this was potentially the author trying... It's not really a retcon, but trying to provide the history there and just doing the best they could, because it's still so stupid. Was there more to this? A little bit, because it's mentioned that why she got elected despite her age, claiming that it's because of her conviction that reform was possible, is what got the people in Naboo to elect her. It's like, okay, she's still a kid. I'm sorry, that's not gonna... I'd be like, oh, that's a great thought you have there. You're a kid. You don't understand what's going on here. Okay? I mean, are you even going to be able to understand all the intricacies of the things you want to reform? Also, what needs to be reformed? We don't know that either. It's like one of those things, it's like you run for a class president promising that every day will be pizza in the lunchroom. It's like, okay, yes, that's reform. Great. Kids like pizza. Great. How much is that going to cost? How are we going to get it there? How are we going to leave that? I mean, it's like, there are so many issues here that it's like, once you start asking, it's like, it's clear the kid never thought it through because they can't. Because they don't think, kids don't tend to think that way. And once they do start going down that route, they may conclude, oh yeah, I can't actually change it. And don't get me wrong. Disruption is good. Well, at least can be good. But trying to disrupt things to achieve reform, it's completely viable. It's completely appropriate to try that. But kids are stupid. This is... Like I said, I have a feeling it is just this author, R.A. Salvatore, trying to fix things up, but it's like we have to just ignore the fact that she's a kid and should have been stupid at this time. And apparently the Naboo are also stupid for allowing her at that age. Because there's also that element of you only get to be a kid once. By putting her in these responsibilities of being queen and such, that is robbing her of that childhood. That is robbing her of being a kid. And yeah, don't do that. I did actually look up R.A. Salvatore. I didn't find like a complete list for him. I think I just know his name because he's written a number of Star Wars books I think I had seen. And I have some light familiarity with those. I've not read any, but it's like I would just see them and would have seen some things about them, so that might be how I have heard his name previously. Okay. Oh, yeah, it does also mention she's not the youngest queen the Naboo have ever had. The Naboo are idiots. The Naboo idiots. And she actually says, because Anakin points out, well, they must have really liked you because, they wanted to amend the Constitution so that you could continue, have additional terms as queen. And she goes, popular rule is not democracy. Actually, it is. That's exactly what it is. This is why democracy doesn't work, though. Because you can't just have it be popular rule, because all it takes is 50 plus 1 then to be stupid. And then they get something that they actually shouldn't get. It's also why children shouldn't lead, because they think that, oh yeah, if we all just have a vote, that it's... No, that's not how that works. Because it's also... here, think about it this way. And I know family dynamics isn't how government works, but imagine two parents, 3 kids. Okay, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Let's say, the kids all vote for pizza, but the parents are like, well, no, we can't really afford that. We have other things in the house that we can eat that, won't cost us a lot, but the kids want pizza. Well, popular rule, they win. That's a democracy. It'll ruin the family because they're going to run out of money and then starve or something. It's like you do need some way of saying, no, popular rule is wrong here, but that is how democracy works. So, like, in family, it would technically be an oligarchy, with the 2 parents being the oligarchs. If there's only one parent, then it's a dictatorship or autocracy. Fundamentally, though, well, they would also be constitutional tyrannies. In that, yes, there are going to be certain rules that are firm and they can't violate the Constitution portion, but at the same time, they are tyrannical because it is the rule of, well, mom and dad, as opposed to the rule of law, because they need to be able to say, no, but I'm allowed to. Not this time. Like, no, I'm making the judgment, you're not allowed to do that. So. Popular rules, not democracy. Yes, it is. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, it is one of those things that's actually really interesting to see how different governments existed throughout history and how modern ones do as well. Because you see the strengths and weaknesses throughout history, and it is actually part of the reason why the American government system is very, very intelligent and advanced, because it basically recognized certain strengths and weaknesses in history and then applied them in certain places and meant to have the checks and balances. Because you have got the dictatorship of the executive branch. That is what that role really is. But no, it can't make laws. It's supposed to execute them. It's hence executive branch. It's also what's in charge of the military, which makes a lot of sense because you don't want to have military command coming down to votes in any kind of republic or democratic system. When we get to Congress, though, what do we also see? We see actually both. Because the Senate is, the states exist, they get representation. Done. That's it. So it's that more towards the sides of just a republic. But then with the House of Representatives, it is more democratic. Because it's supposed to be, we stopped doing it a while ago, but it's supposed to be that for so many blocks of population, is it 10,000? I don't quite remember. But for, based on this many people in the population, you get this many representatives. So if it is 10,000, therefore if you have a state with 100,000, you have 10 representatives. I don't remember when it was, but they capped the number of representatives, so now things just get shifted around between the states. I'm not sure all the pros and cons of that, but it is what it is. But it's like you have that more democratic view there. Oh, and also one other thing that's kind of funny, notice it's only the president that has, for the entire nation, any kind of popular vote attached to it. But then, anyway, with the judicial branch and the Supreme Court, that technically exists as an oligarchy. Because they are the oligarchs within that. They are the most in charge there. It is also democratic in that they each have an equal voice, an equal vote there. And there are a lot of rules for what can and cannot get up there, because a Supreme Court ruling can't really be overruled except by a constitutional amendment. And I think I turned on I did. There, turning that back off. It's like each branch is designed in a specific way to satisfy certain needs. It's also the House of Representatives, being the more democratic, it has the power of the purse. It decides payment, how money is spent, which makes sense because the people are what are taxed. The states aren't taxed. Why would the Senates? Why would the senators have any control over that? They shouldn't, because the Senate, it doesn't connect to. I'm trying to think of what the name is, and I just can't. But it's part of the whole no taxation without representation thing. Boston Tea Party and the tea tax. It wasn't the amount of the tax. In fact, the tax had been reduced prior to the Boston Tea Party. But it was the fact that that tea tax was going to be used by British Parliament to pay the colony's governors. So instead of the governors being paid by the local taxes, so therefore they were loyal to the local population, they were being paid by Parliament, therefore they were loyal to the Parliament. It's that kind of idea. Because the representatives are supposed to be loyal to the people that are actually paying the tax, it makes sense they're the ones that are supposed to be in control of it. Doesn't always work that way, but it is. That's kind of some of the reasoning that you're seeing there. And it is popular rule is not democracy. It's like, yeah, it isn't. Well, no, it is that. It doesn't work, so you come up with these other ways. And you also see that with like the various European parliaments as well. But if you go back to ancient Rome, though, you had the Republic there, but you still had the office of a dictator, which at times of crisis, because they didn't want to have to vote on things like wars, didn't want to have to vote to have decisions made there. No, that you had a dictator that for a length of time had absolute rule. And the idea was when time expired, they were out. And some actually did that. In fact, King Kanatus, he was a dictator twice. He didn't really want it, but he was a loyal servant of Rome, so he got it, did what he needed to do, went back to his farm. Then they needed him, so he came back, did what he needed to do, went back to his farm. Anyhow, it is just one of those governmental structures, political structures like that can actually be very interesting to look at in history, and seeing what the strengths and weaknesses are, and how it is interesting how different governments today are set up and why they might be set up that way, like where it ends up putting power and such. But that's not what this is about, and I've already been going on for like 5 minutes on this thing. But I mean, it is also just, she is wrong. Popular rule is democracy. But the Naboo do not have a democracy anyway because they have an elected queen, an elected dictator. So, yeah, now it might have been a constitutional dictatorship. I'm not sure if you could really call it a monarchy since it's not hereditary. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how some of that works, but it is still, it is not a democracy that they even have there. Okay, so then they got some, oh, and this may also send me onto a rant. So, we're talking with the current queen of the Naboo. Padme, talking about the current situation with the Separatists, and it's like, she believes that the Separatists will not negotiate if they feel threatened. There was a typo here, I want to fix that. What? I mean, it's why negotiate if they don't have a reason to? And threat can be part of that. I mean, yeah. It's also reading that section and thinking about it, it's like, we don't know anything about the Separatists. Okay, they left. Why? What are they trying to get out of this? I mean, we have no knowledge of this, and it's kind of a problem. She also claims that they don't have an army, but will turn to the Commerce Guild and Trade Federation if they must. Apparently, they both have armies. Yeah, so apparently Padme is a frickin' moron, and doesn't remember things that have already been told to us. That the Trade Federation has joined the Separatists. The Trade Federation has an army. Therefore, the Separatists do have an army. It's the Republic that doesn't. You are a moron. It also, she even mentions to the current queen, because the queen does, comment, well, no, it's Beeble that mentioned the whole, how is it that Newt Gunray is still in charge, is still the viceroy of the Trade Federation? Oh, but there were at least these Supreme Court rulings that saw them have to reduce the size of the army. And then Padme's like, well, actually, we believe that they did not reduce the army as they should have. The Separatists have an army, is what she has acknowledged, essentially. Because she does know. That was much early on in the book, when it was stated that Trade Federation has joined the Separatists. So clearly, she should be fully aware. They do have an army. We're the ones that don't. We're the ones under threat. So stupid. Okay. So there's also, I kind of, oh, well, yeah, let me add that. The whole, yes, it's believed that they did not actually reduce their army in size. And then Anakin speaks up saying that, well, how is this? The Jedi were not allowed to investigate. And it's like, in the Cold War even, the US and USSR did go through disarmament and had ways to let the other know. Like, we would, and I assume that they did as well, but we would take certain, like the B-52s, the really big bombers, I think that was B-52, and we would dismantle them, we would destroy them, and then we'd leave them out in, like, fields. Not exactly fields, but where we've got, like, the plain boneyards, we would leave them out there disassembled. Because we know that the Russians had their spy satellites going over, and they would see it. And so then they'd be able to see and count how many we'd destroyed. And we were doing the same thing to them. There's also one of the treaties to reduce the number of nuclear weapons. What ended up happening with that nuclear material was we actually traded it. So that it would then be reprocessed to a lower level of enrichment to be put into nuclear reactors. So again, we had a means of tracking this. So yeah, and by the way, just for point of reference, nuclear weapons need about pure uranium, so like 99 and better percent pure uranium or plutonium in there, but pure fissile material there. A nuclear reactor can make do with like 3 to 5%. Some designs will go up to 15%, but basically the whole distance between 15% and 99 in the weapons grade, there is, to my knowledge, there's actually no use for that. So it is you get the 99%, you get the weapons grade. You know that was intended for a weapon or came out of a weapon. So either way represents disarmament, and then you de-rich it to put in a nuclear reactor and burn through it. So it made a lot of sense. But it's like you could absolutely have a means of knowing that that the army was dismantled, because especially since they were droids. So it's like, give us the droids, we throw them into that forge there so they melt. It's like, but it's also you then have the issue of, okay, well, who made the droids? Do you try to control the ability to make more? I mean, there is stuff there, but it's like, no, this is exactly easy to achieve. The tracking of them. Another thought that occurred to me with this is, and again, it's she's an idiot. She really is an idiot. So am I because of these typos. That she's like, oh, well, if we make an army, they'll feel threatened, then they'll cut off negotiations, which makes no sense. It's like, I feel threatened, so I'm going to stop talking to you to potentially remove this threat. It's like, you're making your situation worse? But there's also, from her point of view, we don't have an army, they don't have an army. Armies take a while. Remember, no one knows about the clone army yet. And you have reason to believe that, yes, there is the droid army, but let's set that aside. Let's say, no, neither side has an army. You know what I would think with this negotiation might be all right, no, we are gonna, right? We're gonna start making an army. You start up too. It'll take this long for our respective armies to be built, right? Yeah, okay. That's how long before we figure out a solution to this. If we can't negotiate a peace before our armies are ready, then we know we're in war. Why not? Give that deadline. Make it a deadline where it's like, okay, that is when the war begins. Because that'll cause two things. One, it is a statement of sincerity and seriousness about the situation. Right? And that's important. Because sometimes negotiations, one or both sides, aren't serious. The other is it also produces a race. Because chances are they would both try to actually complete ahead of that deadline. So then they are ready sooner than they need to be. Because what if the other side also races? Or if the other side just decides to launch a preemptive strike that's smaller, but is still so powerful that it would overwhelm things. Like, imagine if the other side were to, well, if either side were to decide, okay, yeah, it'll take this long to build an army and all that, yeah, let's say a year, but in a month we can have a bomb that'll take out a significant portion of Coruscant. Yeah, why don't, yeah, in a month we'll launch it. I mean, why not do that and then you continue? Because it's not like it's not like the Republic would be in any better shape with their army. I mean, it is this very naive, foolish, stupid idea that, oh, it's the army that starts war. No, it's people not being willing to talk, or it is legitimately their irreconcilable differences. And you know what? Wars end in pieces. That's how it works. You fight a war to win a peace. And sometimes that's what you gotta do. It sucks, but it's real. This is why children should not be in charge. Anyway, last thing I had here is just kind of a pointing together, and it is a significant criticism, really. So, she got elected because of the whole reform within the system. People liked that, decided, yes, we want her, we want somebody who believes that. Okay. The separatists have left. We have no idea why. We have no idea what negotiations are going on either. Why is she not part of those negotiations, though? If that is what she truly believes, if those are her convictions, then she should be one of the people with the negotiations. So that when she hears this stuff, she's like, you know what? I understand what you're saying here. I know exactly what you're talking about here. Yes, I agree we need that reform. And then she can go back to the Senate and push for it. Achieve that reform, because then start bringing some of the separatists back. Because it's also possible that the separatists are not coherent. It's possible some of them are just going there because I use the example of Palpatine being allowed to still be in power, despite his term having expired. And it doesn't say that laws would change. It says that, well, just because of a sequence of crises, they've kept him in power. Some of the worlds could just be a, look, you're violating your own law by keeping him there. Get rid of him and we'll stay. We'll stay. We got other issues, but that's a major one. Why not? Why not? You really think you couldn't have somebody like Padme who was offered the chance to stay queen? They would amend the Constitution to keep her around. But she was like, nope, term limit is up, I'm out. She could, and also Palpatine is from Naboo. She would have been the perfect person to have other senators with her to approach him and say, look, if you step down, they'll stay. This is for the good of the Republic. We just need you to step down, as you should have a while ago. All right? I mean, it's like, you stayed around because we're in crisis and we need you. That's fine. Well, there's a crisis coming. There's a crisis coming. And you know what? We still need you, but we need you to leave. That's how this crisis, or at least part of it, gets averted. Why don't we have that? That's exactly what she should be doing. That's exactly what her character should be doing, right? But it's not. It's not what's happening. But it's also the whole, why aren't we being told what these arguments are? Because, I mean, it is right now. Why do they even care that the separatists are leaving? We don't really know, aside from just, oh, well, it's bad for the Republic. It's like, how? How's it bad? We genuinely don't know. There's no explanation here. I mean, it's one thing if it is a, no, we just cannot let you leave. We are a single coherent thing. I mean, it's like the United States Civil War. We were a single nation, and then the South was like, no, we want to be our own nation, separate out and have our own constitution and all that. It's like, we didn't want that. The North didn't want that to happen, and so, war. But in this, we don't even know why. I mean, it's like, we, obviously, famously, the Confederacy wanted to maintain slavery. There were other things as well. That's just the one that's always focused on, but were other things as well. I think many of them were economical as well. But in any case, it still is, we don't have that. It's just, they want to be separate. Why can't the Republic just be like, you know what? We're okay with that. Go ahead. We're not a mono-government thing. You know, every world has its own government. You decide you want to go somewhere else. You know what? That's okay. We don't know. We don't know why there's this impetus that, no, we have to stay together. Because it's not like it is a true federalized government, such that it is a single galactic government. It's just a republic. Potentially all they're doing is negotiating amongst themselves there. It's not necessarily a federated government. So why is it that important that they're leaving? And why are they leaving? None of this has been told to us. And it's kind of important. Kind of is. I wonder if that's a George Lucas problem. No, I'm serious. I mean, it's, I don't know other works by R.A. Salvatore. I don't. I have largely been happy with the book. I really have been. So I'm happy with him, and I'm willing to go on the limb. I don't know for certain, and say that he may have been somebody that would be like, we need to know these answers, but maybe George Lucas was like, I haven't got them, and we can't get into that because I don't have those answers. It's just, this is the situation. Go. I don't know. I do know that for me, that is one thing, like with some of the stories that I'm thinking about for in the future, it's like I'll run into a thought like this and be like, damn, I need to completely change my thinking. How do I do this? How do I give the justification here? How does it make sense for this to be there? And if it doesn't, then it's like, it's out. It's cut. It's gone. Unless I can come up with some solution. But yeah. 35 minutes. I told you it would be long. Here, let me just quickly see. I'm probably going to have rants in this next one, too. Because we're back to the whole thing. Okay. Yeah, that's a medium-length chapter. The next video will be a long one, too. I'm only guessing, but I am suspecting that there will be some rants in there. Because I already know you got the whole Oberon going back to the library and all that, dealing with the archivist, figuring about Camino, all that. So yeah, I have a feeling there will be some rants triggered. Fun stuff. Okay. See you next time.